at CJAD.com. The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised. Montreal's news talk leader, CJAD 800, presents Passion with sex therapist Dr. Laurie Betito. To reach Dr. Laurie, call 514-790-0991. Star Talk, a free call on Bell Mobility, and 800-491-CJAD. Now, here's Dr. Laurie.
Welcome to Passion, a show about love, sex, and relationships. I'm Dr. Laurie Betito. Tonight, dating dilemmas every month. Frank Kermit of franktalks.com joins us. He's a dating coach, seduction coach, the author of many books on the subject of dating and dating and many other things actually related to that. We're very happy to have you on. Always nice to see you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Laurie. It's really great to be here once again.
Wonderful. All right, so tonight, what shall we, what do you figure we're going to talk about?
I was thinking we can talk about breakups. Something that almost every relationship you're ever going to be in is going to experience.
Unfortunately, you don't usually go in and thinking that's going to happen, but...
No, but it is good to go into a relationship and have a realistic expectation that we're going to get to know each other until we have a reason to either get really serious or end it.
Right.
And in most cases, you're going to end it because there's very few people that you want to make a serious lifetime commitment to.
Right.
It takes two to make a relationship, but only one person to initiate a breakup.
Yeah, and some people are so afraid of that breakup because they don't have those expectations. They don't go in it thinking, look, not every relationship works out. Obviously, breakups are part of the dating cycle or part of the life cycle. And I've met so many people who just stay clear of relationships for fear of those breakups.
I think there's a lot of fear of intimacy, and people attach incredible meaning to a breakup. I know that that's what happened to me when I broke up with my ex-fiance. I was looking at it and saying, okay, well, what does this say about me? And when you attach that much meaning on something that, even at your best, you're still only 50% of a relationship.
Right.
You got to remember, the person that you're choosing is the other 50%. So what does it say about you? That most... you made a bad choice, and maybe you need to work on trying to make a better choice for yourself in the future. But if someone breaks up with you or you break up with someone, it doesn't mean that either one of you was a loser. Right. It doesn't mean either one of you was bad or wrong. It just means that your relationship doesn't have the potential for a long-term future. What
about if you have some people who will say, for example, everybody breaks up with me? Or they don't last very long. The relationships don't last very long. I get dumped a lot. At that point, so important to look at yourself in the mirror, isn't it?
Exactly, and that's what I did after my strike 3. I got stood up at the prom, ex-fiancé leaves me for my best friend, hung out with a girl for 2+ years who then said, Frank, I can never be with you because we're of different race and religion and culture. And then one day she announces to me she's getting married to someone who's of a different race, religion, and culture.
Oh, wow.
And at that point I said, okay, if this keeps happening to me, there's a common element in all of these situations.
You.
Me, exactly.
Yeah, but that's a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to do, is to face oneself. I think there's a natural tendency as humans that we sometimes have is to blame, to look outside of ourselves as the cause of, because it's hard to say, well, it's me, it's me, it's me. Oftentimes, I guess it's not you, right? Sometimes it just doesn't work out because it doesn't work out. It's not just because you're a bad person or this or that or whatever. You
have to remember that making a relationship work isn't just about doing the right thing. It's also about the things that you value, the things that you plan long term. And you could meet somebody really amazing and have a really good connection, but there's other elements in there that simply are not conducive to making a long-term relationship work, and that's okay. Right. And I think one of the reasons we do try to look outside ourselves to blame is so we feel a sense of control. There's nothing wrong with me. True. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm right. The rest of the world is wrong. Because if you have to look at yourself and the things about yourself that maybe are causing these type of breakups to happen, there's a lot of self-reflection there, and that can be painful.
Yeah, it can be when you have to really look at yourself. I want to ask our listeners, and I'd love you to participate in the program. Have you ever had someone break up with you and you didn't see it coming at all? Did you just think things were perfect? And maybe we need to explore what are some of the signs that we miss. And it does sometimes. I hear that feedback from people that, oh my God, it came out of left field. I didn't see it coming. I had no clue. I was happy. No clue that the other person was not happy. So maybe we need to figure out, what is it that we miss, and what are some of the more common signs? So I want to hear from people. Did you ever, have to break up with someone that just didn't understand why you wanted to, or were convinced that you were wrong? Like, no, why are you breaking up with me? That's wrong, and have all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't break up. 514-790-0991, Star Talk, star 8255 on your Bell Mobility cell phone, 1-800-491-CJAD. You can also text us at 514-800. In the second half of the program, we're also going to talk about, we have a special guest who's a wing girl, talking about the wing girl method. Her name is Marni, and she's actually a Canadian, so her website is winggirlmethod.com, and I thought it was quite intriguing, and I think you know a lot about using wing girls, I guess, or all the techniques involved. And it's amazing how many techniques and it's so manipulative, really, when you think about all of these things in terms of how to get the girl or how to get the guy.
It can be, and again, it gives people a sense that they are in control of a situation when usually they feel out of control. Having a wing can be a good thing. It's somebody there to be a support, somebody there that when you go in and approach new people, you have someone there with you to try and verify that you're an okay person to be talking to.
Right.
My own philosophy, though, is that if you could become dependent on a wing, you never truly learn to be independent and be able to go after what you want.
On your own, by yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a double-edged sword.
Right. Well, coming up, we will find out what exactly a wing girl is, in case you don't know. We'll find that out later on. So right now, dating dilemmas with Frank Kermit of Frank Talks on the air with us. And if you've got questions, comments, something you want to talk about regarding breakup signs that you may have missed, maybe you want to find out what some of those signs are, or what about if you're always in a situation where it's breakup after breakup after breakup? What does that mean? We'll try and answer some of these questions right here tonight on Passion.
From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas. Tonight on Passion, we're talking about breakups. It takes 2 to make a relationship, only 1 to break it up. Can we ever say that there's something at the source of every breakup? Like, what is common to all breakups?
I think that the one thing that's common to all breakups is that whatever it was that brought the 2 people together, for whatever reason, is no longer there. So let's say what brought 2 people together was a really strong physical attraction. If that was the primary reason that these 2 people stayed together, hooked up, and after a few years they may not find each other as attractive anymore, that starts spelling the doom of the relationship if there was nothing else there keeping them together.
Sure, and that doesn't take years, actually. That would disappear pretty early on. Yeah. But, you said something interesting, what the things that brought them together. Sometimes I see the exact opposite happen, when the things that brought them together, the traits that they were attracted to, are the same traits that tear them apart.
I've seen something similar, and what I look at is, let's say humor was the one thing that brought the couple together. I've seen where humor has become the destructive force,
Right.
but only because other elements that were there that the couple took for granted were no longer there.
Okay.
Here's an example. When I was on Newlywed Nearly Dead, the couple that I was working with on that show,
What show is that? I don't remember that show.
Newlywed Nearly Dead. They talk to couples who have been married for less than 3 years that are struggling to keep their marriage together.
Okay.
And one of the couples that I got a chance to work with, he initially had this really wacky sense of humor. She loved him for it. But because of other things that went wrong in their marriage and other challenges that they struggled with, the very thing that attracted her initially now became a source of annoyance.
Drove
but
her
it wasn't
crazy. Right.
and he couldn't understand because he's always been like that, and that's exactly what she says drove her to him.
Right.
Here's my philosophy. The humor that he used actually made him attainable, because he already came in with very strong dominance. He came in with a very strong lead in the relationship. When some things like various crises will happen to people in their life and relationship, he ended up losing some of that dominance. He ended up losing some of the assertiveness. He still had the humor. So the very thing that made him attainable in the beginning now became an annoyance because the other things weren't there. But if you can't articulate what it was you were attracted to, you end up focusing on the thing that you figure was what brought you there.
That's tough, to be able to focus on that, because I'll give you another example. And this I see, often enough when you have one person who is very type A, like, always needing to move and what have you, and they pick a partner who's extremely laid back. And they're very much attracted to that laid back. It's, wow, they're going to really kind of quiet me down kind of thing. And then, as the time goes on, they realize that they have to shake that person to get things done. And so their laid backness now becomes this source of, frustration and all of that. Is that because other things aren't working? Is that, we have to look at, really have to take a look at that. We don't often take a look at that. That's my point.
I agree. And in a case like that, where if you're attracted to somebody because you want to change and you want to work to that, you cannot put the responsibility on the other person to mellow you out if you're a go-getter.
Right.
And you certainly can't expect somebody to make you more of a go-getter if you're a very mellow person.
Right.
So expecting the other person to influence you to change is not necessarily a great basis to make that relationship work.
Right.
And when you realize, it's still on me, a lot of people will start building up some resentment.
Right. But those are the power struggles, right? That they start to have this, it's like a tug of war, and come to my side, no, come to my side. And then there's nobody who wins in these tug of wars and these power struggles. And that's where resentment builds.
Exactly. And once you start having resentment, it's very difficult to feel affectionate.
Right.
Because resentment will drown any sense of affection you have for the other person. Even though intellectually, I'm dealing with a good person. I know they've got a good heart. I know they have the best of intentions. But golly gee, I'm just feeling so angry right now. And that may create such a barrier that you can just lose that sense of intimacy.
Yeah, that's difficult, because often resentment turns into contempt, and when contempt is there, you've pretty much lost it, unfortunately. But I do want to talk about breakups early in a relationship. Or what if you're dating somebody that you find out, has had many, many breakups? Should you stay away from somebody like that?
It all depends on why they broke up. Now, if this is part of a series of behavior patterns where they go out of their way to create a situation where they have to break up because they're getting off on the emotional range of it, that could be a red flag. But to say that, if you've had a lot of breakups, that's wrong. Well, if they've had a lot of dates and they've had a lot of relationships, that might be a good thing because they have relationship experience. It all depends on what it is that they broke up for. The key here is that, are they continuing to date the type of person that they end up leaving? And if that's the case, then you got to look and say, what's the attachment theory here? Why are they responding to people who, time and time again, they go into those same repeating behavior patterns that they know is unhealthy for them?
And also somebody who's been dumped a lot. That's another thing, is that you're dealing with someone who has issues of trust, possibly insecurities. So, that brings up a whole other thing. So if they have been dumped a lot, why have they been dumped a lot? Isn't that something you'd want to know as the person dating the one who's always been dumped?
I often find that when you talk to people about their past relationships, it's important to ask them what they learned from a past relationship. And if the only response they can say is, I learned that my ex is a, and a bad word, okay, they haven't learned anything about themselves.
That would be a bad sign.
Yes.
A very bad sign. Dating dilemmas on Passion. If you'd like to join in on the discussion and talk with us, you can at 514-790-0991. Dating Dilemmas every month is with Frank Kermit of franktalks.com. He's an author and a dating coach and has been for many years. So he's got all the expertise here to help you out. If you'd like to give us a call at 514-790-0991. You're listening to Passion on CJAD 800.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
1, 2, 3, go.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's news talk leader, CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas on Passion. Coming up, we're going to talk to Marni the Wing Girl, find out what the Wing Girl method is, and maybe get the inside scoop a little bit. But for now, we are talking about breakups with Frank Kermit. Frank, what's the number one predictor that you're going to have lots of breakups in a relationship? Because there are some people who seems, in their dating life who go from relationship to relationship to relationship, and there just seems to be like a whole string of breakups.
Within my client base, I often identify one major thing, and it's an inability to deal with truth. They have this
interesting.
They have this idea of how things are supposed to be. It has to be like this. And the minute the actual truth, when they face reality, no, sometimes reality is not perfect. They become unable to deal with the intense emotion that draws out of them. So they freak out over the littlest thing. And when you give off the vibe that, no, you can't be honest with me, because if you're honest with me, I'll get mad and I'll get upset and I'll act out.
But what kind of honesty? Like honest about what kinds of things?
Okay, let's look at something very common here. You're with your partner, you've been dating, let's say 3 or 4 times, and your partner talks about, oh, did you see that person over there? They look so attractive. It could be a celebrity in a magazine. Mm-hmm. And what? You're attracted to other people? But you're only supposed to be attracted to me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, okay, look, the reality is, even when you're in a relationship or even when you're dating someone you really like, you're still going to be attracted to a variety of people.
Right.
And that's a reality. That's a truth. But if you can't stand to hear your partner being honest and saying, well, yeah, actually, I find that other person attractive.
Doesn't mean I want to go out with them.
Exactly. Right. It's not an attack on you. It's that they find somebody else somewhat attractive. And if you're going to react negatively every time somebody wants to express themselves, they're going to start censoring themselves around you. It starts breaking the communication.
Sometimes it's protecting the other from, because, you start to sense that, oh, but they're really insecure or very jealous. And then, but that is unhealthy, period. When you spot that, I mean, at that point, something is off.
Exactly. And
but sometimes we don't recognize it.
And the sign for me is, are you unable to deal with reality? Are you unable to handle the truth of your partner?
And that's what can lead to many, many breakups.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
The relationship then becomes based on either half-truths, full omissions, sometimes even lies.
Right. Coming up, we'll talk to Marni the Wing Girl and continue our Dating Dilemmas segment here on Passion on CJAD 800.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the program From Friends to Lovers. Stop being her emotional cookie man. How does a man turn his female friend into his lover even when she has rejected him in the past? Why would a woman rather date and have sex with a stranger than a male friend she had known for years? What emotional needs do male friends, emotional cookie men, address, and which ones do they violate such that they don't get to date their female friends? What does it take to make a woman date and fall in love with one of her male friends? Why don't women see their male friends as sexually capable beings? What is the difference between a real female friend and a woman that uses men? Find out here in this Frank program, From Friends to Lovers. Stop being her emotional cookie man. On sale now at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
Tonight, it's our regular monthly feature, Dating Dilemmas. In studio with me, as he is every month, is Frank Kermit of franktalks.com. But also joining us on the line tonight is Marni Kinrys. She's the creator of the Wing Girl Method. Hi, Marni.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you? Thank you for being on the show.
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Now, you have to tell me what is exactly a wing girl. So everybody's on the same page, and we'll move on from there.
Okay, so a wing girl, by my definition, is a woman who helps men understand other women so they can attract, date, approach, meet, seduce, keep, be with the women that they want. It's to help bridge the gap in communication between men and women because, as you know, we both speak very different languages, even though we both want exactly the same thing, and that's overall happiness and people to understand us.
Right. So that because generally when we think about a wing person, whether it's a wing guy or a wing girl, we think about you going along with, you know, whoever it is that they're trying to pick up or what have you, and kind of helping them, you know, on the spot, no?
Yeah, oh, exactly. Well, that's how my business started. So originally, 7 years ago, that's exactly what I did. I would go out with men, and I would help pick up women for them. And now, you know, I would start going out with these guys, and I would end up being on a bench with them for more than half of the evening, explaining women to them. So I realized that there was a definite need, and that they were not wasting their money with me, but that they weren't ready to go on, I call it an outing at the time. They weren't ready to go on an outing with me until they understood themselves a little better and until they were more confident. So I say that you can't turn anybody else on until you're turning yourself on. So what I help men do is really turn themselves on.
So that makes a lot of sense, that you got to get them to understand the basics before you can even get somebody for them, because it doesn't really matter how great you are as a wing person if the person you're trying to hook up with someone else doesn't get it. They don't get it.
Exactly, and I'm a good wing girl. I am one of the best wing girls. But the thing is that the girls ended up wanting to hang out with me. So I had to teach these guys to be wonderful as well. So that's what I do now, and I help men all over the world.
Right. And I should tell our listeners that you did win the title of World's Best Female Pickup Artist.
I did, in 2010. I did.
So you are the best in this business, aren't you?
Yes, I am, and I'm very proud of it. Thank you. It takes a while to get there, but yes.
And how does a nice girl like you gets into this line of work? Tell us.
Well, I'm a nice Jewish girl from Toronto who happened to be at a Jewish singles mixer when I was 23, and nobody was talking to each other. Like, literally, boys and girls, like in 7th grade, were separated. On one side of the room was boys, one side of the room was girls, and so I literally started grabbing the guys and pulling them to go talk to the women. I would give them feedback on their body posture, on what they were saying to girls. I would break into the conversation for them. And then at the very end, I would tell them what they were doing wrong, what they could improve. And so when I went home that night, I was a little buzzed, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was talking to my best friend saying how much I hated my job. I was working in PR at the time, and how it would be interesting to be a wing girl, professionally. And my roommate came downstairs. He's a guy, and he was an entrepreneur, like really businessy, and he's like, there's no way that guys are going to pay for that. You're going to have to sleep with them if you want that service to work. So I was like, I don't think you're right. And I went in to my room. I put an ad up on Craigslist, and I had 75 guys respond to me by the next morning.
Wow.
So I started. And, I wasn't really sure what my business was in the very beginning. And I got phone calls from pimps and, like, strange people, and it was really weird and awkward, and my parents were not happy about
I'm sure not.
moving. Yeah, I moved to L.A. to become, like, an escort, basically, so they weren't happy about that. And then slowly over time, it morphed and changed, and I discovered the pickup artist industry.
Okay.
Which a lot of the men who are in the pickup artist industry who started it off are not, my cup of tea. They don't really teach anything of value.
I want to tell you one thing. I do agree with you. And sitting in front of me is a guy who, and I'll introduce you, Frank Kermit. Meet Marni.
Hi.
Say hi.
Hello.
Now, Frank also has been in this business a long time, but Frank, you feel the same way, that there are a lot of people in this business who are also very iffy and shady. Yeah.
Yeah, I studied under...
Sorry, go on. I'm sorry, Frank.
Yeah, I studied under some people that I very much regret having met in general. And,
really?
Yeah, and part of the reason that I set up my own avenue with this is so that at least the guys can learn something without having to succumb to associating with people who have been violent to women.
And interestingly, you and Marni do a little bit of the same stuff, because Frank also, he writes books for men to understand women, but, Marni comes from it from a female perspective, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the two of you...
after this call, Frank, I would love to talk more with you about this. But yeah, no, I think a lot of the people who started off in this industry were, they were kind of angry and frustrated guys who weren't getting attention from women, and who came up with some tactics and forms of manipulation in order to get what they wanted from women. And I understand that some people need training wheels at first. You may need lines, you may need routines, because it doesn't come so naturally to people.
Right.
So being social is an actual skill, and some people don't naturally have that skill, so they have to earn it and learn it.
Right.
But a lot of these guys got a little bit drunk with power, and they kind of, it's like if guys watch porn too much, right? You start looking at women in a completely different way.
That's right.
And so a lot of these women have become objects, and they feel that in order to be perceived as someone with higher value, they have to knock women down a few levels to make them insecure, and that doesn't, it's not good for anybody. These men actually ruin these women for other men, or potentially for themselves later on down the road when they do want something of substance. But the industry is completely changing now, and there are fantastic people who are really getting into the community and teaching the importance of being authentic and genuine, and really learning how to be a man rather than a player, where it's
a manipulator.
Your best. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And maybe
even some of the people who started off in the industry are going in that direction.
Like Frank.
Not 23 anymore.
That's
exactly.
right.
Because you learn. You learn.
It's so interesting because when you look, Frank, when you look at your stuff and you see how you started, which might have been as a frustrated, individual who couldn't, was trying to figure out how to get the girl, you ended up writing books on emotional needs of men and women, you could see the maturity over time. But you're right, you're no longer 23. You're 33 or 43, and suddenly you learn that other things matter, and you really learn how to do it. So it's fascinating. It's such a fascinating. When you think about it, there are so many people who do have difficulty at this level, and who are either socially awkward or just don't seem to have that skill. Not everybody has great social skills.
Yeah, and I can say even for myself, I was horrible with women. I'm married and I have a husband, but for my entire life, I had never really been great with women. So for me, it was also a different way of exploring that area of building friendships with women and trusting women. So I also had my own small frustrations towards women. And I always was the friend to female. So I would always explain what was going on to my male friends and what women were doing, because in the past I used to think of women in the same terms that a lot of men did, manipulative, petty, I don't know which words I can say on the radio right now, but other words. And I don't see women that way. I don't see women that way anymore. Okay. But that's the background that I came from when I was 23. So, as everybody grows, they have their eyes open a little bit more, hopefully.
Well, it's quite fascinating. We're going to take a short break. Marni, can you hang out with us for a little bit longer?
Yeah, of course.
Wonderful. Marni Kinrys, the ultimate wing girl. She developed the Wing Girl Method, and her website is winggirlmethod.com. There's a whole DVD series that you can have access to, and books and all kinds of stuff. So you can certainly check it out. You're listening to Dating Dilemmas right here on Passion on CJAD 800.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's news talk leader, CJAD 800.
Tonight it's our monthly feature, Dating Dilemmas. In studio with me is Frank Kermit. We're talking about basically picking up, helping men understand women, vice versa. We also have Marni Kinrys, the ultimate wing girl. She's the creator of the Wing Girl Method on the program with us tonight as well.
One of the reasons that I believe this industry exists is because there's this unreasonable expectation that when it comes to sex, love, and relationships, everybody's just supposed to know. Right. You're just supposed to figure it out. And the fact is that the social norms that used to be in place to dictate people's behaviors in terms of right and wrong, they've been eliminated. We now live in a time of ultimate choice. But all this choice, without the social skills to know what to do with it, is leaving a lot of people alone and lost without direction.
Yeah, and I think that's where you guys come in, certainly.
Yeah.
Marni,
well put, Frank. I love how you just said that. That was great.
What's the most common situation that a client will come to you with, Marni? Like, is it because they don't know how to approach a woman? Yeah. They don't know how to talk to what?
Well, it's actually a combination of both, and they kind of go hand in hand with each other. It's that they don't know how to approach, or how do I approach a woman and make her instantly attracted to me, and how do I have a conversation with a woman that sparks instant attraction. So it's kind of like once they have the first thing down of how do I approach, then their next issue is always the same thing of how do I have a conversation. I hear it constantly because a lot of men think that they kind of have to manipulate in order to make an approach. They don't think that they can go for what they want, or there has to be some crazy expectation of an outcome for what they're doing. So, what I tell a lot of men is, as a man and as a human being, you're allowed to do whatever you want and ask for whatever you want, as long as you're not hurting, manipulating, or being dishonest. And then you have to leave it up to somebody else to say yes or no. Right. So, you can't reject yourself. But approaching and conversation are definitely the two biggest issues that I see.
So how do you do this? Do you practice with them? Like, how does your method work with these guys?
Well, what I start off with doing is helping them build their confidence. So a lot of guys, because they see a beautiful woman, they automatically erase the 25 years or 39 years or however old they are of their own self-respect and value, and instantly put a woman onto a pedestal that they don't know because she's hot. Because she's wearing her skill set that they value on her sleeve of being very attractive. So right away, because she's hot, she, judges on a different level. That's what they think, and that they're not good enough. They may not say the right thing. She probably has a boyfriend. She's taken. She doesn't want to be bothered. There's all these different thoughts that goes through the mind of a man before he approaches. Right. So what I help do is the first step of my method is help really build up their confidence and help them see themselves as attractive, so that it at least puts them on the same level as a woman. They have to acknowledge what's attractive about them so that they can instantly have it on recall when they go to approach a woman.
Now, be honest, Marni, I'm sure sometimes you have to dig deep to find what's attractive. And not to be mean, but
not the guys that I work with.
Okay.
Not the guys I work with. Like, the guys that I work with are awesome, are ridiculously amazing guys. There's guys that, every single female or male knows a guy like this, where you're like, you're awesome, why aren't you with anybody?
Right.
And then you see them out with girls, and you're like, yeah, that's why you're not with anybody. Totally understand.
Oh,
so
really?
Okay. These are like kick butt guys, like amazing, wonderful guys who have the best hearts. They are.
So these are the typical guy that you say, just a really nice guy, but that nobody wants to take further.
Well, when it comes to women, they again lose their self-respect, and yes, they sometimes are the overly. I don't like using the term nice because I don't want to say that being nice is actually a bad thing.
Right.
I've never heard a woman say, I don't want to be with a nice guy.
Right.
I don't want a guy to be nice to me. So I don't like using that term. But yeah, there are guys who don't have a backbone, who don't have a strong backbone when it comes to women, and they think that compromising themselves by doing whatever she wants to make her happy is a way to please a woman, when ultimately it's the way to just make her go running for the hills.
The other thing, though, when I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, let's say there's a guy who is maybe not so awesome. In other words, he's got kind of an ordinary job, not very ambitious. He's like extremely shy. He's socially awkward. And he does see this beautiful woman across the room who seems all confident. Wouldn't it be setting him up to even go for that? Like, don't you have to find your match to some degree and not shoot so much higher, or not have expectations that, if you're, I don't want to be insulting to anybody, but if you're, a 2, that you're going for a 10.
Well, are you just talking about looks right now?
Well, let's just say looks and like the package, like a highly successful, beautiful woman. Is she going to go for a guy who has no ambition and who, maybe not so good looking,
No, but that's different. You said no ambition, not so good looking. It's not. The not so good looking isn't the important part. It's the not the ambition, probably not being proactive, not being confident.
Right.
Like those are things that
are much more important.
Yeah, way more important.
Right.
Like looks, yes. That's the first thing that you see when you see a person. Absolutely. Like same with window shopping. You see a pair of shoes first thing, you try them on, you're like, these really hurt my ankle. It's too high for me.
Right.
The point doesn't fit. So yes, of course. But it's the other things that make a person into.
Well, do you work,
especially for women?
Do you work on appearance with them too? Like, do you do makeovers with them and stuff?
Yeah, I do style with them. I have a stylist that I work with in New York who is absolutely amazing and makes guys who start off looking like Bill Gates look like, hot Abercrombie models. Like it's ridiculous what she can do with them. Style is an extension of a personality. It's a portion of it. It's not everything,
right,
but it is a portion of it. And dressing better for your body and cleaning yourself up can definitely make you look better. But you also have to work on several other things. I end up doing a lot of self-help, really.
Okay.
With a lot of these guys. So any guy who isn't passionate or isn't proactive, hopefully, and it's worked in the past where I've been really successful with this, is helping them boost their confidence. A lot of people are unemployed right now, and a lot of men write into me saying, my unemployment has really beat me down, and it's showing in my dating life, and women are very unattracted to me because I'm unemployed. So I help them realize that they're not unattracted to them because they're unemployed. They're unattracted to them because the unemployment is beating them down, which is affecting other areas of their lives, and they're putting out negative energy towards these women that they're dating. So I help them get a better understanding of what they're feeling and experiencing, how to better frame unemployment in their mind so that they can feel better about it. And then I can also help them, give them steps to solving their unemployment issue.
So a little bit of a life coaching.
A little bit, but it's mainly focused around women, and it's giving them the insider's perspective into what women are thinking. So if guys say, a woman did X, Y, and Z, what does it mean? I can tell them not the answer that other men will give them or that other women will give them, but the real answer to what's really going on in her mind and why she's doing what she's doing.
Okay.
Marni, I have a question for you. Within your client base, do you find that there's a lot of men who are basically self-hating males?
Yes, I do. And yes. Do you have that as well?
Very much so.
And could you describe that for me? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
The idea is that he hates anything associated with being a man. He associates being, let's say, assertive with being a bully. Well, I don't want to be a bully, so I'll never be assertive. And he hates he hates men so much, and he worships women so much that he creates a horrible imbalance. There's no way that you can end up in a relationship, emotionally or otherwise, with a woman if you value her so much and you devalue yourself because of your own gender.
Okay. So it's not just the looks, but the gender also is what because you mentioned that as well, Marni. Well, it's like, that seems like a lot of, potentially a lot of issues to work with. Like, what's the longest client you've had? Like, how long has it taken you to,
Well, it's different. So I have clients that I work with for 6 to 8 weeks, and then I have a maintenance program. Because the thing is that a lot of these guys, after I work with them on something, they then start dating. And then there's different areas and different questions around dating that they have. So I have them, it's a maintenance plan where they get a half an hour call with me every month, and then they can email me and ask me questions, and I'll respond back to them within 24 to 48 hours. So they just touch in with me. It's like I really am their female friend.
Wow.
That they're like, what's going on here? Like, I'm on my 3rd date with this girl, and she hasn't slept with me yet. What's going on? She keeps flirting with me, which means that she wants to have sex with me, but she isn't having sex with me.
Right.
Which is not true. But anyway, like things like that. And then guys who are in long-term relationships, and I have a lot of men who are married as well, who really want to reignite the spark in their marriage. And I don't know the normal time period for a client, but I've had people who are on my newsletter list for 2, 3, 4 years. Wow. So it's just a refresher course for them sometimes. Right. It's like this nice singing information that reminds you, okay, yeah, you got to be confident. Or, women aren't all horrible, mean, and manipulative. They're actually just insecure, maybe, or anxious, or uncomfortable, and it's just, for reminders for them.
Marni, clearly you provide a valuable service and one that's needed, or you wouldn't be as popular as you are. So I want to direct people to your website, thewinggirlmethod.com. I guess that's where they can get in touch with you and find out more about you, right? Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me. I had a really good time. And
wonderful.
Frank, I would love to be connected with Frank after.
All right, we'll make that arrangement. Wonderful. Okay, Thanks, Marni.
Right.
Bye now. Bye. 514-790-0991. We have a few minutes left. We'd love to hear from you right here on Dating Dilemmas on Passion.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, do you want the man in your life to understand you on your level? Do you want your man to be able to listen to and address all of your emotional needs? Show him how much you really want your relationship to be the best it can be. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test makes the perfect gift. The book, written by a man, for men, is endorsed by every woman that reads it. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on Montreal's News Talk Leader, CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas, couple of minutes, so we'll take a call. Hi, Michael. Welcome to the program.
Hello, how are
Hi.
you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Just wanted to give my comments on what you've been talking about.
Please.
First of all, I'm not such a big fan of dating. I prefer courtship.
What's the difference between dating and courtship?
Dating, you get to know each other, but you may end up getting married eventually, but there's no come and go, really. Mm-hmm. You may eventually just split up, and you can date over and over, and that also produces, unhappy lives,
because lots of breakups.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So what's courtship to you?
Courtship is where you go and you have the intention, you love a person, you have the intention of marrying them, so you go to the father, you say, I'd like to court your daughter if you're a guy,
But is that realistic in this day and age? Like, how many women want that? How do you fall in love without dating? How do you get a girl to even agree to that? I don't know too many who are just going to say, here, come meet my father and ask his permission. Like, they're going to think that's a little weird in this day and age. Not that it's not noble or anything. I don't want to, burst that bubble, but is it realistic is my thing.
Well, they may have feelings for you. If they don't, then maybe they're not the right person for you. But if they do, then you court. But how do you know, Michael, unless you are actually going out on a couple of dates to find out if they're interested? You know? You find out when you go and ask the father, and he will talk with his daughter.
No, well, I'm not so sure that's too realistic there, unfortunately. Michael, thanks very much, and don't be a stranger to the show. Hope you call us again. That's all the time we have. Frank, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it very much.
Dr. Laurie, time goes by so quickly.
I know, doesn't it? But you'll be back again next month. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to Matt Ward in Master Control. Appreciate it. If you want to reach me, drlaurie.com or passion@cjad.com or through our Facebook group, Passion with Dr. Laurie, or where else? I could be reached just about anywhere. You could find me very, very easily. So have a great rest of the evening. And please don't forget, life is short, so take the time to smell the flowers and indulge your passions.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by The Eye of the Seductress, Volume 1, a workbook for women to learn about the emotional needs of men. This book is designed to teach women how to seduce men into making a commitment. By learning about the emotional needs of men, a woman will learn what makes even the most notorious players, pimps, and high-value men and quality male leaders commit to one particular woman. From the desk of Frank B. Kermit, the seduction relationship expert, this book is also a great resource for men to learn how to judge the value of a woman to know if she is worthy of everything he has to offer. The Eye of the Seductress. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.